The first light of dawn bathed the world in soft gold as Adeola knelt by the banks of the Osun River. The mist curled around her like delicate fingers, brushing against her skin as if the spirits themselves were reaching out to comfort her. Her hands, calloused from years of hard work, trembled slightly as she placed a small offering of honey, flowers, and fresh fruits on a woven mat before her. Her voice, choked with emotion, broke the sacred silence. "Osun, sweet mother of the waters, hear my plea. Heal my daughter Oyin. She is the light of my life, the air I breathe. I come to you with humility and faith, trusting in your mercy, your strength, your love." The river, ancient and wise, flowed steadily before her, its waters glistening under the newborn sun. Somewhere deep in Adeola's heart, she believed the river listened. Days earlier, her world had begun to crumble. Oyin, her vibrant and curious daughter, had fallen gravely ill. At first, it seemed like a simple fever, the kind children recover from with time and care. But days turned into weeks, and Oyin's small body weakened. Her once bright eyes lost their spark, her laughter faded into silence, and her steps became wobbly and unsure. Adeola had done everything within her reach. She had taken Oyin to the best doctors in Osogbo. They poked and prodded, prescribed medicines, and shook their heads with confusion. Some whispered strange names for diseases they barely understood. Others simply told her to prepare herself for the worst. Every visit drained Adeola, not just financially, but emotionally. Each unanswered question chipped away at the hope she clung to so desperately. Family members and neighbors, seeing Adeola's suffering, began suggesting what modern hands had forgotten, the old ways. They spoke of the Orishas, of rituals and prayers, of the power still pulsing in the earth and waters of their ancestors. At first, Adeola resisted. She had grown up in a Nigeria increasingly leaning toward modernity, a Nigeria that sometimes forgot its own soul. But when the modern world turned its back on her daughter, the ancient world beckoned with open arms. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the cries of the cicadas filled the air, Adeola visited Baba Ayo, a respected babalawo known throughout the region. His courtyard was simple, but filled with an aura of deep peace. Under the shade of an ancient iroko tree, he welcomed her without words, sensing the desperation she carried. Baba Ayo knelt before the sacred tray, spreading the Aikin seeds with practiced reverence. His lips moved silently as he consulted the sacred wisdom of Ifa. After a long, solemn moment, he looked up at Adeola with eyes that seemed to see into the very core of her being. "Daughter," he said gently, "Osun has heard your cries, but you must go to her, not just with your offerings, but with your whole heart. Trust the river. Trust the path it sets before you." The words wrapped themselves around Adeola like a cloak of hope. It was not an easy decision. Leaving home meant trusting neighbors to watch over the little that remained of her possessions. It meant walking a path she had long forgotten how to tread. But for Oyin, she would have traveled to the ends of the earth. On the day of her departure, the sun blazed fiercely overhead. Adeola wrapped Oyin carefully, securing her on her back with a brightly colored cloth. With a small bag containing fruits, honey, candles, and a few coins, she joined a small group of pilgrims making their way to Osogbo. The journey was arduous. The roads were uneven, the heat oppressive, and the burden of worry heavy on Adeola's shoulders. Yet there was a strange sense of community among the travelers. They sang songs, ancient songs, that spoke of love, of faith, of battles fought and won not with swords, but with prayers and perseverance. Children ran ahead, laughing and kicking up clouds of red dust. Elders shared proverbs along the way, reminding everyone of the strength found in patience and unity. Through it all, Adeola pressed forward, feeling a flicker of the old strength awaken within her veins. When they reached the outskirts of the Osun sacred grove, the air changed. It grew cooler, almost sweet, and the trees stood taller, their ancient limbs arching overhead like a cathedral of nature. The pilgrims removed their shoes in respect, stepping barefoot into the sacred forest where spirits were said to dance among the leaves. Adeola felt it immediately, a presence, gentle yet powerful, surrounding them. The grove was alive, not just with the rustle of leaves and the buzz of insects, but with something deeper, something eternal. As they neared the river, they joined hundreds of others gathered to honor Osun. There were women dressed in flowing white garments, men chanting prayers, children carrying offerings. Drums beat a steady rhythm, their sound weaving a tapestry of devotion that filled the very air. Adeola found a spot near the water's edge and knelt, cradling Oyin in her arms. She closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath her knees, hearing the heartbeat of the river. She whispered her prayers, her dreams, her fears into the wind, offering them to Osun with every fiber of her soul. With trembling hands, she placed her modest offerings into the river, a pot of honey, golden and pure, a bouquet of fresh flowers gathered along the way, and a whispered promise to teach her daughter to honor the ancestors if she were given the chance. As the offerings floated away, carried by the gentle current, Adeola felt her tears spill freely down her cheeks. But for the first time in weeks, they were not only tears of sorrow, they were tears of release, of surrender, and of hope. Around her, the worshippers' chants rose into a crescendo, a wave of sound that seemed to lift her very spirit. The river, shimmering under the noonday sun, seemed to dance in response. Adeola remained by the river long after the formal rituals ended. She sat in silence, holding Oyin, breathing in the sacred air, feeling the warmth of community and spirit wrap around them both. Deep within her, something shifted, a quiet certainty that the journey had not been in vain. That night, under a canopy of stars, Adeola dreamt of a woman clad in shimmering gold, her hair flowing like the river itself. The woman touched Oyin's forehead and whispered words Adeola could not remember upon waking. But the feeling lingered, a sense of peace, of blessing, of answered prayers. When Adeola and Oyin returned home days later, the change was almost immediate. Oyin, once so frail, began to regain her strength. She ate heartily, her laughter returned, and color bloomed once more in her cheeks. The villagers marveled at the transformation. The doctors, summoned in disbelief, could offer no explanation. But Adeola needed none. She knew, as sure as she knew the earth beneath her feet, that Osun had smiled upon them. And Adeola, true to her promise, began teaching Oyin the old songs, the prayers, the wisdom of the ancestors. They would often walk together to the river near their village, where Adeola would recount the journey that had changed their lives forever. "Never forget, my daughter," Adeola would say, brushing a stray curl from Oyin's forehead. "Our blood carries the rivers and the stars. Our strength is the gift of those who walked before us. When the world turns its back, turn to the waters, to the earth, to the spirits who love us beyond all measure." The Osun River continued its eternal journey, just as it always had, and on its banks the story of Adeola and Oyin lived on, a quiet testament to faith, to family, and to the enduring promise of Osun. In the weeks that followed, life slowly returned to a gentle rhythm. Oyin's laughter once again filled the small courtyard where Adeola grew her herbs and sang songs her own mother had taught her. Neighbors, who had once visited in hushed tones of condolence, now stopped by to smile, to laugh, and to marvel at the miracle that had unfolded before their eyes. But for Adeola, gratitude was not a silent feeling. It demanded expression, action, offering. She remembered the traditions of her grandmothers, that when the Orishas bless, it is not enough to whisper thanks in secret. Gratitude must be celebrated, honored, shared with the world. And so she began preparations for a small ceremony of thanksgiving to Osun, a celebration that would gather family, neighbors, and even those who had merely heard of the wonder that had touched her household. The day of the ceremony dawned bright and fragrant, the air filled with the scent of blooming hibiscus and ripe mangoes. Adeola wore a flowing white wrapper, her hair adorned with yellow flowers in honor of Osun's colors. Oyin, radiant with newfound health, skipped barefoot across the courtyard, laughing as she helped tie ribbons of white and gold around the trees and entranceways. Women from the village came early, carrying bowls of jollof rice, stews rich with spices, and baskets of sweet oranges and bananas. Men erected simple canopies to shield the courtyard from the sun, while the young ones pounded drums, their rhythms weaving excitement into the air. At the center of it all stood a simple altar, a woven mat spread with fresh flowers, bowls of honey, and small calabashes filled with offerings. In the middle, a small sculpture of Osun, carved from wood and lovingly polished until it gleamed. The ceremony began with music. Drums spoke first, deep and resonant, followed by the lilting call of the talking drum, singing praises to Osun, mother of sweetness and fertility. Women raised their voices in song, calling forth the Orisha with melodies that seemed older than memory itself. Adeola stepped forward, holding Oyin's hand tightly in hers. Together they knelt before the altar. Adeola's voice, though soft, carried the weight of deep emotion as she spoke. "Great Osun River Mother, guardian of sweetness and love, we come before you with humble hearts. You heard my cries in the darkness, and you answered with light. You carried my daughter back from the edge. You restored laughter to this home. Today, we honor you, we thank you, and we promise to keep your wisdom alive in our lives." With that, Adeola placed a fresh pot of golden honey at the base of the altar, a symbol of her gratitude and her enduring faith. The community joined in, each person offering a small token, a flower, a coin, a whispered prayer. The energy in the courtyard shifted. It grew vibrant, electric, as if unseen hands were dancing among them, weaving joy into the fabric of their gathering. After the offerings, the drums grew louder, more insistent, and the dancing began. Children twirled, their laughter spilling into the sky. Elders clapped in rhythm, some joining the dance with slow, graceful movements that spoke of generations of tradition pulsing in their veins. Adeola and Oyin danced too, mother and daughter moving as one, their faces shining with happiness and relief. At one point, an elder woman, her hair silver like moonlight, pulled Adeola aside. Her name was Mama Sade, a respected storyteller of the village. "Child," she said, her voice low but strong, "never forget that Osun's blessing is not only for you, it flows through you. As the river nourishes all who come to it, so must you share what you have received." Adeola bowed her head, feeling the truth of those words seep into her soul. From that day on, she took on a new role within her community. She helped care for sick children whose families struggled. She taught young girls about the old traditions, the songs, the stories, the strength of the Orishas, and always at the heart of her teachings was the message of hope, that no one is ever truly alone when they remember where they come from. As seasons passed, Adeola's story traveled beyond her village. Pilgrims arriving at Osogbo would sometimes hear whispered tales of a woman whose faith called forth a river's mercy. Some came to see for themselves, seeking wisdom, seeking hope. Adeola welcomed them all, sharing her journey not as a tale of miracles for the few, but as a testament to the power that lives within every heart, connected to spirit and tradition. And Oyin, she grew strong and wise, her spirit touched by the river's gift. From a young age, she showed a natural affinity for healing, her small hands soothing fevers and comforting cries. When she became old enough, she chose to apprentice with a babalawo, determined to keep alive the sacred bond between her people and their ancestors. Years later, when Oyen stood by the Osun River with students of her own, teaching them how to listen to the whispers of the water and the songs of the earth, she often told them, "Strength does not come from standing alone. It comes from knowing you are part of something far older, far wiser than yourself. It comes from trusting the river that has carried your ancestors before you." And somewhere, always, just beneath the surface of the flowing waters, Osun smiled. The years unfolded like the steady current of the river, sometimes swift, sometimes slow, but always moving, always carrying life forward. Oyin blossomed into a young woman full of grace and wisdom beyond her years. In her smile, the entire village saw the light of renewal. In her laughter, they heard the echoes of the river's song. Adeola often watched her daughter with awe, remembering the fragile child she had once cradled against her chest, praying desperately to the heavens. Now that same child moved among the people as a beacon of hope, a living testament to the bond between human hearts and the sacred forces of the world. As Oyen grew, so too did her understanding of her calling. She became an apprentice under Baba Ayo, the same Babalawo who had once shown Adeola the path back to Osun. Under his careful guidance, she learned the sacred verses of Ifa, the mysteries of the Orishas, the ancient rites that held communities together even through the harshest trials. Oyen's hands were steady when she prepared herbal medicines. Her voice was clear and warm when she recited prayers. Her heart was open when she listened to those who came seeking guidance. She did not see herself as a miracle worker. She was simply a vessel, a bridge between her people and the timeless wisdom of their ancestors. Word of her healing spirit traveled far. Mothers carried their sick children to her, fathers brought their worries, elders brought their aches and stories. Oyen met them all with kindness, patience, and the fierce compassion that had once saved her own life. She never turned anyone away, no matter how humble their offerings or how heavy their burdens. One rainy season, when the river swelled and the skies wept for weeks without end, a small caravan of travelers arrived in Adeola's village. They came from a distant region of Nigeria, where war and hunger had driven many from their homes. Among them was a boy no older than 10, thin as a reed and coughing weakly into a ragged cloth. His name was Seyi. His mother, Amoke, clutched him tightly, desperation etched into every line of her face. "Please," she begged, collapsing at Oyin's feet. "He has been sick for many moons. We have nothing left to give, only prayers." Oyin knelt beside them, her hands gentle as she examined the boy. She saw the signs of long hunger, of lungs burdened with illness. She felt the deep weariness that weighed on both mother and child. Without hesitation, Oyin gathered herbs, honey, and healing waters from the sacred spring nearby. She prepared a poultice, sang prayers under her breath, and anointed Seyi's chest with oils blessed by the river's spirit. But more than medicines, she offered presence. Every day, she sat with Seyi, telling him stories of warriors who had fought battles of spirit and triumphed, of rivers that never stopped flowing no matter how many stones tried to block their path. Slowly, Seyi's cough lessened, his strength returned, and with it a shy smile that broke open the hearts of everyone around him. When the boy was strong enough to run through the fields with the other children, Amoke wept openly, embracing Oyin as one embraces a sister, a savior. "You have given me back my son," she whispered. "How can I ever repay you?" Oyin simply smiled and answered with the words her mother had once taught her. "What we receive from the river, we must pass on. That is how we honor the gift." That night, as the rain finally ceased and the stars returned to the sky, Adeola sat beside Oyin under the old Iroko tree. The air was cool and clean, washed free of sorrow and fear. "You have become more than I ever dreamed," Adeola said, her voice thick with emotion. Oyin leaned her head against her mother's shoulder, the bond between them as strong and steady as the river's current. It was you, Mama. You showed me the way. You taught me that even when the world turns dark, there is always a light in the waters, if we have the courage to seek it. Adeola smiled, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. The journey that had begun so many years ago, with a desperate prayer at the river's edge, had blossomed into something enduring and beautiful, a legacy woven into the very soul of their people. And as the wind rustled the leaves above them, as the river whispered its eternal song through the night, mother and daughter sat together, knowing that their story was just one thread in the vast golden tapestry of the Yoruba people. A tapestry spun from faith, resilience, and the everlasting promise of Osun. The river would continue to flow, carrying with it the memories of the past, the hopes of the present, and the dreams of those yet to come. And so too would the spirit of Adeola and Oyin, alive in every chant sung by the waters, every prayer offered to the stars, and every heart that chose, against all odds, to believe. Fee.